So here's a question. Is it possible for an ordinary person with no financial qualifications to outperform the best unit trust or mutual fund managers in the world? Now, this is my intent for this channel, is to educate, to train, and to show you how I'm going to outperform every single unit trust or mutual fund manager in the world by investing in cryptocurrencies, by applying the Wealth Creators strategy, right? So, and the intent is for you to be able to do the same on condition, of course, that you're going to implement this, that you're going to learn. Now, there's a system that I'm going to use, or a strategy specifically, and that is the Dreyer crypto strategy. So welcome to the 500K investment challenge. To find out more about this challenge, maybe go back and watch the first video in this series, and then I'll add a link in the description area, and then also make sure that you follow maybe in sequence. That's how you're going to get the best value from this. I'm Magnus Dreyer, I'm a Wealth Creators mentor, and if you're interested to create, to grow, to protect, and to enjoy your wealth, then I can assure you that you are at the right place. If this is therefore something that interests you, then, and you're new to this channel, please make sure to like, to subscribe, and to click that notification bell so that YouTube can send you the notifications as soon as the next video is ready. Now, I was financially free at 37 by applying this Wealth Creator strategy. And in this challenge, I'm going to show you how I'm going to use this strategy by investing in cryptocurrency specifically in order to outperform the traditional fund managers over a 5-year or longer. Now, I'm saying 5 years because most people don't get it, but when you invest in an investor, if it's shorter than 5 years, I see that as speculation or trading or something like that. I do not see it as, and even 5 years is very, very short. So to make provision for the ups and downs, let's take this a 5-year. And by the way, the challenge is started on basically the 2nd of November. I assume it was the 1st of November by these two gentlemen. And the one said it's better to invest in South Africa. The other one said it's better to do it globally. I'm saying it's better to do it in cryptocurrencies, and then it does not matter if it's local or global, right? And therefore, this challenge is a 500K challenge, which simply means that anyone, anywhere, depending on your currency, maybe you in dollars or pounds or euro or rand or Zim dollars, whatever the case may be, the 500K is applicable to the world simply because we are working with cryptocurrencies. Right, now, my goal for this channel is 100% to educate. The rest, to be able to prove it, that's going to be fun and it's going to be entertaining. But the real reason why I want to do this is because I want to educate, to train, and maybe even inspire you to become a wealth creator. Now, a wealth creator is a person that knows how to create, to protect, to grow, and to enjoy your wealth. And the moment that you're a wealth creator, you'll be able to do that. And the reason for that is simply to have a life of abundance, where you can do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, with whom you want to do it, without worrying about where the next paycheck or income is going to come from. Right, so that is what my intent, my real intent, is to educate. Now, I was very, very lucky. I discovered and developed this concept of the Wealth Creator strategy by the age of 30, and by the age of 37, I was financially free. Of course, that was a learning process. I'm still learning, by the way. But today, with what's available like cryptocurrencies, I think anyone can be, by becoming a wealth creator, can retire literally within 3 to 5 years. So if you are new to this challenge and this is something that interests you, make sure to like, to subscribe, and to click that notification bell in order to make sure that that YouTube notify you when the next training video will be available. Now, I also suggest that you start with the first video in this playlist, right? And then perhaps watch all the videos in sequence in order to learn why I'm taking on this financial industry, and how, I think this is the most important part, how you can do it too, even if you've got no qualifications. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, right? And this channel is not about financial advice. It is purely here to educate you about money, maybe to entertain you a little bit in the process. Now, what most people do not know is that the financial industry has deliberately and intentionally designed their products to keep the middle class poor. What are their products? It depends on where you are in the world. In America, it's going to be mutual funds and 401ks and stuff like that. Here in South Africa, we call it unit trust, which is the same as a mutual fund, and retirement annuities and pension funds and provident funds and fixed deposits. Right? If you're, for example, in Australia, they're going to call it superannuation in terms of their pension story. Right? So all of these products are designed by the system and were designed by the financial system and industry specifically to keep the middle class poor, because the middle class is where it's the easiest way to make money out of them. Okay. Now, how do you do that? How do you keep the world, the middle class, poor? You simply confoculate them. Okay, now, what is confoculation? Confoculation, the definition for that is simply, it's a mental state of mind when you do not know that you don't know what you're supposed to know. So, that simply means that everything that you learn about money is a lie. Everything that you've learned about investments is a lie, because all of those investments are based on selling their products to you so that they can make the money out of you. It is important that we understand this. In other words, what we believe to be the truth is not the truth. So we have to dig a little bit deeper in order to understand, but what is the truth and how do they keep us poor? Because to start a challenge of, let's say, whatever, and compare, if you compare apples to another kind of apple, you're not really a different cultivar. It's still an apple. And the industry wants you to believe that there are options. And the truth is there are no options, because they regulate and they control that whole industry. So we need to get a little bit deeper to understand how they operate before you start tackling and challenging the system. Because if you challenge the system by playing the system's game, you are going to lose, because they've set up the rules, and the rules are there for them to win, not for you, for them to win. So we need to uncover, but how is it that they've set up these rules, and how can we play the game? So let's start with the financial services industry. The financial services industry, what's their intent? My intent is to educate you and to tell you the truth the way that I at least understand it and that I've applied in my life in order to be financially free at 37. But what is their intent? If you really break it down, you're going to find that the financial services industry wants you to wait for 30, 40, 50 years before you can retire in order to enjoy your wealth. In other words, you have to put your money and give your money to that industry in the mutual funds and unit trust and pension funds and retirement annuities and 401ks and for 40 years. In other words, they cannot give you the true growth on your investment, because otherwise they're going to be in business, because it has to be a long game. Now, to me, when I was 30 and I discovered this, that was absolutely crazy. At 30 to wait till you are 65, 70, 80 years before you can start enjoying your wealth. It's crazy. I wanted to start enjoying my wealth immediately and be in a position at least before 40, in other words, before 10 years, to be able to never work again in my life and to be able to do the things that I want, when I want, where I want, how I want, with whom I want, without worrying about money. In other words, I wanted to be financially free so that I could pursue my passions and my dreams and be with my family. That was important to me. But you have to decide what's important to you. And if this is crazy to wait for 40 years before you can start enjoying your money, because your money, the moment that your money is working for you, you can start enjoying it. Otherwise, I'm working for my money. And to put my money in a fund for 40 years before I can enjoy it means that I have to work for 40 years. It made no sense to me. So I want you to really think about this just for a moment, but think carefully. Let's say you've got a business and your business model is built on keeping people's money with you. In other words, under your management. Tell me, doesn't it make sense that you are going to do and say everything in your power to have those people keep their money with you as long as possible? Of course you're going to do it. It just makes sense. And this is why I want you to forget everything that the financial system have conditioned you, in other words, confoculated you to believe about money and about investments. Because everything that they've told you about having to invest your money with them for 30, 40, and 50 years is based on a lie. The only reason, my friend, the only reason why they want to keep your money for 30 to 40 years is to serve their interest. And that is to line their pockets. They're in there for the money. And everyone that is involved in that system, the brokers, the fund managers, the advisors, the auditors, the whole caboodle, all of them is going to make money from you by letting you believe that they can help you. There's only one person that can help you, and that, my friend, is you. And in my case, me. No one else. Unless you are prepared to take the responsibility, first of all, to understand the system and to see what the system is doing to you and how they are conniving in order to rob you from your energy, from your money. You're not going to start the process. We have to identify the problem. And the problem is they are legally stealing your money. They steal your money. It is fraud. They commit fraud on a big, big scale. But the governments are protecting them because they are there to serve the governments by keeping the masses poor. This idea that you've got, that the governments are there to help you, is the biggest lie, because the governments are buying votes. And the majority of people are poor, and therefore the easiest pool of votes will be for the poor, to grant the poor and to give the poor and promise the poor a lot of stuff for free on condition that they vote for them. Right, so those people are not prepared to take responsibility. And unfortunately, those people are in the majority. So it's actually very, very easy to control this process so that you stay in power and call it a democracy. It's not a democracy. Right, now we're not going to talk politics, but we have to understand the basics, because the end game of this global elite is for you to own nothing but be happy. Now, that is a lie, because therefore, if you own nothing, my friend, they're going to own everything, and you will be a slave. So this is really, really important that we understand this. And if you know of someone that is willing to take responsibility, to learn this, and to incorporate this teaching of becoming a wealth creator, please share this with them. If you know that this person wants the easy way out, where they trust other people with their heart and money, with their blood, with their sweat, with their tears, then don't send it to them. But if you know that that person is serious about creating wealth, keeping that wealth, and building a legacy, then please share this series and this video with other people. So, if we want to understand how this operates and how they get us to work and put in the effort and then they take all the money, we need to change our way of thinking. And for that reason, I want you to look at money not as a means of exchange, but as a unit of energy. Because as soon as we get this, then the rest of this training is just going to make sense, and it's going to be a lot easier. Now, what is this unit of energy? So if we look at the first law of thermodynamics, it simply states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Energy can only be transferred or changed from one form to another. So how does this process work? let's look at time, effort, mindsets, and skill. So these are the things that we need to do in order to exchange that for units of energy. And the way that we do it normally is you get a job. So in that job, it's going to take your time. You have to work 8 hours per day, as an example. It's going to take your effort. You have to grind. You have to figure things out. And that means that you have to use your mindset. Now, sometimes you get a degree before you can start, or a qualification, or you are in-house training. That is the mindset that you have to have. And then you're going to build the skills that your employer is going to ask from you. But you have to do that while you train or before. And for that, they're going to give you a pay at the end of the month or week or bi-weekly, depending on how you're getting paid. Or if you have got a business, all of that work that you do in order to add value to other people is going to be converted into a unit of energy. And that unit of energy is going to be dependent on where you are in the world. If you're in America, it's going to be converted to the legal tender, which is called dollars. If you're in the United Kingdom, it's going to be converted into pounds. If you're in Europe, it will be euro. I am in South Africa, therefore it's going to be ZAR, South African rands. And because the reserve currency of the world is dollars, I'm going to do this in dollars because all the different currencies are pegged to the dollar. So if we understand what's going on in America and how they're manipulating the story, the financial industry, that story, then we can relate. And therefore I can take up a challenge, and you can take up a challenge, where not only do we challenge the South African fund managers, but we can literally challenge the fund managers that's sitting in Russia or in China or in America. They call it, by the way, the unit trust there will be called mutual funds. They've got different names for exactly the same thing, or in any other country in the world. So I'm going to focus on the dollars. And if you've got 500,000 rand or $500,000 or 500,000 euro, the principles will stay the same the moment that we start looking at units of energy. Because in that country, we're going to measure the growth that we're going to get from 500,000 rand to, or euro or pound, is going to be exactly the same. We're looking at the growth. Because it's only the growth on our money, taking risk into consideration, that is what's going to make us rich. So we need to understand that we're going to put in the time and the effort in order to convert this, change this, right? This effort that we put in into the rands and story. But part of a wealth creator is being able to create and to preserve. You have to preserve that units of energy that you've put into all the efforts that you've put in. You have to preserve it, because unless you preserve it, it does not belong to you anymore. And this is where this portion, the transfer, comes in. And this is where the confabulation happens, because we earn that. In other words, we do the work, but they get the money because we transfer that money to them without us knowing it, because we play their rules, and their rules are set up in order for us to be poor. Right. Now, this is my belief system. Luckily, I retired at 37, be financially free, because of this understanding. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. Stop with this series. Because you have to take the responsibility. I'm not going to invest your money on your behalf. I want to show you what and how you can turn your money and outperform any fund manager. The money that you've worked, it's your blood, your sweat, your tears, your time, your effort, your mindset, your skill. No one has got the right. That should be totally protected by everything, but it's not. Simply because I'm going to show you that it's being transferred to them without us knowing it through confabulation. So now that we've got this part, we can summarize this by saying our TEMS. I like to call it my time, effort, mindsets, and skills, or currency, is then converted into units of energy. As I've said, I'm going to use the dollar to do this. So our Units of energy represents our time, our blood, sweat, tears, labor, ideas, skills, and everything that goes with it in order to convert that into either a paycheck or a salary, depending on how you want to see it and where you are from the world, or into your income, right? And therefore, people work for the rest of their lives for money, and they never learn how to let their money work for them. So, if you can get your money, and I'm going to give you a little formula perhaps in the next lesson, where you can make sure that at all times your money is working for you, instead of you working for the money, for your money. And the system wants you to work for your money so that they can get your money. And they promise you that they're going to help you to let your money work for you. But it's a lie. And I'm going to show you. So perhaps what we can do is to have a look at where I discovered this. In other words, what was my situation when I made this amazing discovery? Now, what a lot of people do not know, in 1984, I was in the insurance field wanting to become a certified financial planner. That was my training at that point in time. I was one of the top sales reps within my branch, a small branch in South Africa, and I felt good about myself, right? But one of my colleagues literally stole my commission. Short story, the client went to the police station, made an affidavit that this is basically fraud and that I am entitled to the commission. And then simply 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, the manager, on that same Monday in the afternoon, I took that affidavit, gave it to the manager, knowing that I'm going to get my commission. And the next moment they called me, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they called me in. And I thought that they're going to say, okay, the case is yours, it's your commission, blah, blah, blah. But he said, I want your car keys, your wife's car keys, and I'm giving you till Friday to transfer, that was on a Monday afternoon, to transfer the bond, your house, the mortgage, and release us from into your name, because we're calling up our security. Because as of this moment you are fired unless you go back to the client and tell the client that you were in the wrong, because you're not going to get the commission. Now, of course, at that moment, my first question was, to myself was, what the hell am I going to tell my wife? But the second thing that came up was, wow. In other words, it's my house, it's my cars, but they control it. So is it really mine? And it's not, because it actually belonged to those days here in South Africa, building society, nowadays a bank, and a financial institution. And the same with my cars. It was on a hire purchase or a lease agreement. It did not belong to me, but I thought it belonged to me. And because of that, I put in the time, the effort, the mindsets, and generate all of this income. I was in a 50% marginal rate. In other words, I was one of the highest income earners in South Africa at that point in time, right? And yet, I've got nothing. Or I thought I had a house, but it's not my house. And I want you to look at your situation and ask yourself the question, the house that you stay in that you think is your house, is that your house or does it belong to the system? Right. So what was my situation at that point in time? Now, of course, I did go back to the client. I did play open cards with the client. I told him exactly what was busy happening. But I remember saying to the client that this is going to be the best learning experience in my life, because there has to be a serious learning lesson in something bad that happens, always. And I want you to have a look at your life. And whenever something bad happens, there has to be an incredible learning experience. And it's because of that learning experience that I could retire at the age of 37. And it's because of that I can share this information with you, using myself as an example in order and hoping that it's going to help you. Now, at that point in time, from the day that I started to work, it was about 8 years. My income, in other words, my energy that I've generated per month, right? The units of energy is 5,000, right? That means my yearly income or my yearly energy, units of energy, 60,000. And therefore, if we take that and forget about inflation, and forget about the pay increases, but if all of that, if I've preserved all my energy, it means that per year or over that period of time, would have had or should have had 480,000 units of energy. That's what I'm supposed to have if I protected that. But here's the trick. I had less than that. I had zero units of energy on my name on that day that I got fired. So how on earth does this happen? Well, my biggest asset that I had at that point in time was my house. And for most people, average people, let's call it the middle class, that will be your house. But at that stage in time, because the way that the system operates, I'd like to share that so that you can use this information and knowledge and look at your situation. Okay, so my biggest asset at that point in time, of course, will be my... Now, I'm not going to go back in terms of what the inflation rate was at that point in the average house price and the marginal rate. I was at a 50% marginal rate, the lending interest in South Africa. So let's look at that situation. At that situation, the house that I bought like a year earlier was for 68,000 units of energy. 68,000 units of energy. The term, because I had no money, I borrowed that units of energy, in fact, to buy the house. The term was 20 years, and the interest rate in 1984, here in South Africa, was 24.5%. Now, at the moment, it's 7%. Globally, it's very, very low, and everyone thinks that it's going to stay low. Well, I've got a surprise for you. There's something that we call inflation, and around the world, they've got two choices. Either they print more money or the inflation is going to start running away. So at that point, 24.5%. And you can do the calculations, and later on in this series, I'm going to show you, if it happens today, what's the situation going to be. But I want you to get the principle. In other words, what I had to do out of this income, this units of energy that I generated for that year, I had to give them 1,399 units of energy. I hope that you've got it. And if you haven't got it, please listen to this, because this is crucial that we get it. Because the moment that you get it, you're going to see how simple and how they structure the process so that they will get your money eventually. Okay, now what does that mean? It simply means that per year, if we look at the year story, it means that I had to generate 16,791 units of energy. But after a year, if you go back to the bank and you say, okay, how much of that was interest? And they say the interest is only 24.5%, but it's a lie, because in real life, they work on what they call amortization table. So at the end of the year, there's only 137 units of energy that I've kept. The rest of 16,654 units of energy went directly to a financial institution that is part of the financial industry, that is part of this global elite system. Right. But in South Africa, it's even worse than that. Now, in America, there's different ways that we can have a look at it. The same with the United Kingdom. You have to look at your country. I'm sharing what has happened in my country, because they're conniving us even more here than, for example, in America. But in South Africa, if you've got a house, you pay that house with after-tax money. So we can see that another system is going to come in. So in order to do that, if I had to earn that money additional, in other words, put in more time, effort, mindsets, blood, sweat, and tears to it, it simply means that I had to generate 2,798 units of energy additional, of which the government, we call it SARS, in America it's the IRS, Inland Revenue Services, took 50%. If you, in any country, I guarantee you that you are paying, if you really calculate it, you're going to pay more than 50% in terms of taxes. That means 1,399 units of energy to one system, 1,399 units of energy to another system. So how much energy did you keep? Well, in my case, it was 0.41% at that point in time. In other words, out of the 33,000 units of energy, 33,582 units of energy that I had to create additional in order to afford this house, Out of that, I've left with 137, and 16,654 went for interest to one system, and 16,791 to another system called SARS, or tax, the tax man. Now people say, yeah, but you buy the house for long-term investment. So let's have a look at that. At that point in time, the growth, the inflation rate in South Africa was projected at 11.5%. So if I've done a projection at 11.5%, it means that in 5 years I would be able to sell that house for 117,000 units of energy. After I settle my bond, which is 66,000, meant that I would have 50,000 units of energy, 50,455. But here's a trick, and this is what it boils down to. How much energy did it cost you? How much blood, sweat, and tears did it cost me? It cost me 167,000. So I've lost in the process, and you are busy losing a lot of money without you knowing it, simply because no one is teaching this to you and telling you and explaining it in this way. I've lost 117,000. But in real life, although the inflation rate in South Africa at that stage, when I looked 5 years further in 1987, and I looked at the real cost without taking estate agency fee, rates and taxes, bond registration, all the other costs into consideration, I could not get 72,000 units of energy for my house. Which means in my case, if I had sold my house at that point, which I did not do, would be 166,119 units of energy. I've lost almost 99%. I've worked for like crazy. And I had a nice car and I had a nice house. But the system has taken it. Now, I'm not including the two cars, the depreciation on that cars. The endowment policy that I wrote myself at that point in time had no value, simply because those days it was 10 years, and within the first 2 years there's no value. The unit trust, a little bit of growth, but a very, very small portion of my income did I invest in unit trust. That gave me a miserable 12 or 15%. My retirement annuities and pension fund was stuck. In other words, there was no money that I could show for that until I turned 55 here in South Africa. So the result of that was simply this. And that is that after 8 years of being in this system and having a nice house and having 2 cars and thinking that I'm on my way to become financially free, if I look at the energy that I've preserved, it was less than zero. I want you to do a similar calculation. And simply take this that you're earning at the moment and multiply that by the years that you've been working, right? I'm not even including the years that you've studied and stuff like that. The years that you started to work. Multiply that, see the amount of units of energy that you must have at this point in time. And then see how much of that energy did you preserve. And I guarantee you, if you've been working for 10 years or 15 years, that the chances are that you're going to have taken into consideration what your unit trust and mutual funds and all your investments are giving you. Take that into consideration and see if there's a discrepancy between the two. And if you have more or if you've lost in the process. And I think that is the first step that you should take in order to start with this process. So, if I can give you an assignment, this is not, we are busy with the YouTube channel where I'm giving education the way that I see it, right? But if there were assignments and if you were at the Wealth Creators University, then I would say this is your assignment. So from this, what is it that I've learned at that moment that maybe you can incorporate to open your mindset? Because unless we're going to change your belief system, unless that is changed, you're not going to understand and get the way that you've been confoculated when it comes to investment. So what is it that I've learned? First of all, life is not fair, right? And get used to it. Use that bad experiences that happens in your life. Use those experiences to learn from that. In life, that is the learning experience, because those problems are indicators of the universe that we haven't got the skill sets to offset those. That becomes our risk. Risk is when you do not know what you're doing. It's got nothing to do with the system that wants to tell us is the risk is the deviation and that you have to take risk. As wealth creators, we do not take risk simply because life ain't fair. We have to get use of it to that. We have to turn that into learning experiences and then share that with other people. So in this YouTube, maybe share with us. What's your situation? What is it that you've learned? What is it that you are taking away from it? Because you're going to help other people that's going to watch this video. The second thing is this job security that people are crazy about. That employer feels nothing for you, my friend. They may have a post and say that they are your friends. And not only that, the system does not want you to succeed, and therefore they're going to back the employer, right? The employer, there's no security like job security. I'm not saying that maybe you've got a cozy job and a nice job, but don't bargain on that. And that pension that they promise you is not going to be enough, and it's not even going to be there. If you're sitting in South Africa, that pension fund is under attack, and I know for a fact that in America the same thing is busy happening. The third thing, the financial system is not there to help you, and I hope that you started to see the process. It's there to use you to line their pockets. The moment that you get this, you are going to start moving, because the moment we're not going to do anything as long as we're in a state of confabulation. But the moment that we become aware that we are being confabulated, and the moment that we see the problem, we are going to do something about it. And that is what I want to help you. Now, another thing that I've learned at that point in time, I was at the 50% marginal rate, which means that I was in the top earners here in South Africa. High income is no guarantee that you'll ever be financially free. Don't be fooled by the cars and the houses and the dresses that people are wearing and their job titles, and it's just a fool's paradise that the middle class has fallen into. The moment that someone comes to you with a tie and a suit and they call themselves these gurus, be careful, my friend, because they're making the money from your confabulation. And your job is to take responsibility and know how you can let your money work for you so that you do not have to work. Unless, of course, you want to. I think it's an incredible honor and an incredible privilege to be able, some people will say, I'm busy working. To me, this is my passion. This is what I could do this whole day, every day for the rest of my life. I've been doing this now for 19 years. I retired, been on retirement for about 7 years. Tanya said to me, no, you can't sit here doing nothing, getting depressed. Go and teach other people what is it that we've done. And this is, I hope, to a certain extent, a gift or present that I'm trying to tell. Now, by the way, the majority of people are not going to do anything about it. They're not even going to listen to it. And that's fine. But maybe you are that one that's going to say, wow, I better take responsibility and control of my own finances if I really want to have everything that I want in life, right? And then another trick is be careful for the masses. So the moment that you are following the masses, because the masses are easy to confabulate, it's very, very simple that you are in that trap. So I want you to think. And in the next lesson, I want to start with what is a wealth creator and how do you become a wealth creator. But in the meantime, if this is something, if you found any value in this, please make sure that you subscribe. Please make sure that you like it. Maybe even share this, and please make sure that if it's the first time that you're on this channel, click that little bell icon so that YouTube can notify you as soon as I've got another video in this. I'm going to put this in a specific playlist, the 500K challenge, and then you can follow. But I also give a lot of training in other areas. Right, so I really want to thank you for your time, for being here, and then I'll see you in the next one.